Welcome back to another episode of The Lawyer You Know. We've got a special one here today. We are going to take you behind the scenes for our first Zoom trial. This is actually our first trial since Corona hit in 2020. It's a civil litigation lawsuit, a dispute over a seven-figure amount. And I'm trying it with my dad today, George Tragos, and we are going to hit a 3-day trial with 33 witnesses on the witness list. There are 6 or 7 different parties, 3 or 4 lawyers going to be involved, so we expect a lot of housekeeping issues. On day 1 of the trial, which is today, we expect to open up with the judge and deal with some of those housekeeping issues and how they want to handle Zoom interruptions, recesses, and breaks to figure out when somebody drops off Zoom or when we have to get a new witness on Zoom. We expect it to be different swearing in witnesses, dealing with objections and the other lawyers. It is a bench trial, so we don't have to pick a jury, which would be very difficult over Zoom and something that we've objected to in the past. But just dealing with a bench trial will make it a little bit easier because we don't have to put on quite the same show and explanation of certain facts when it's just the judge that we're explaining it to and not a jury. So we're going to be hopping in and out to explain to you how it goes, but just on day 1, we do expect to get through opening statements and start the witnesses. My dad is running first chair on it. I'm second chairing it with him and assisting him throughout the trial. So we'll be jumping in and out whenever we do have a break to tell you what we've gotten done so far. But we're looking forward to starting this first Zoom trial. Hopefully there's not a lot of hiccups, but we're going to bring you guys along for the ride. All right, so we're here with our first break in the trial. We've gotten through motions in limine, opening statements from 3 of the lawyers, the housekeeping issues, and we've started our first witness. As you can imagine, the housekeeping issues surrounded Zoom and waiting for objections to be answered. The judge said she only had 9 boxes up on her iPad, so she would have to scroll through and find the person that was trying to talk. So we'd have to give a little bit of a delay to make sure the court reporter can take down everything people are saying without people talking over each other. What do you feel like has been one of the weirdest parts so far at the beginning of the trial, doing it by Zoom versus in live?
The hardest part to get used to is the mute button. The fact that they can hear everything you're saying unless you hit that mute button. In court, you don't necessarily worry about that.
Right. In court, at counsel's table, there is a microphone where you can mute it because the record, they can pick it up when they're taking it down for the record and things like that. But so when you mute here, they can't hear anything you're saying, obviously. That's what mute means. But as questions and answers are going on direct and cross-examination with witnesses, you want to jump in and object. And you have to protect the record and object before the answer comes into the question so the court reporter can write it down and the judge can make a ruling. Well, here you have to remember to unclick that mute button, make your objection, and then make the argument back and forth and let the judge make the decision. So that has been one of the weirder things.
It's easy to forget to re-mute.
Right.
So that
and as we're talking and going back and forth about things on the case, then if we're not muted, everybody's going to be able to hear that. So those are some of the weird things going on with it. We haven't had too many hiccups with Zoom, but during opening statements, one of the lawyers was doing their opening statement. The court reporter fell off and came back on, and the lawyer just kept going, and she had to stop him, and he had to go all the way back to when she fell off, and she gave him the last word that she typed down, and he had to start over from there and redo it, which was probably difficult and annoying on his part. But that was really the only big Zoom hiccup that we've had so far. We're looking forward to seeing how it goes. It seems really easy to use the documents. It seems really easy to share the screens, and I think it's going to go much quicker doing a trial by Zoom than when we do it live.
Paying attention to the court reporter, that's something we don't normally do.
Yeah, because they're always there.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting, and we'll see how it keeps going. Hopefully it keeps going smoothly. All right, we are at our lunch break now. We have finished, it's actually after 1:30, we finished the first 2 main witnesses. They were adverse for us. We went a little long through lunch to finish the second witness. So we're prepping for the next set of witnesses that are going to come here. They'll probably be fact witnesses to get through this first day of trial. We said in the beginning there were 33 witnesses listed. We don't expect that many to be called. Probably half or even less than half will end up being called. We have had a couple snafus or issues with Zoom. The court reporter's fallen off a couple times. We told you about the opening statement. The court reporter fell off again during a line of questioning when this witness was getting cross-examined. So the lawyer had to start over kind of their start to cross-examination. And then my dad had an issue with one of the witnesses that had a shadow over their face. So he asked them to shed some more light so he could see them while he was cross-examining them so we could still get a good view of their facial expressions, how they were answering questions, because it's much different when you get to do it in person and look in their eyes, which is one of the main issues we have with doing this in front of a jury. that you wouldn't be able to get a great feel for the jury on Zoom. This, again, is a bench trial, so it's not as big of a deal. We know the judge, her reactions, we can see it's just one person, but a big jury would be much more difficult, don't you think?
Right. It would be.
And that's one of the issues with Zoom trials, but I really like it for what we're doing here, and it's just like depositions, basically. I mean,
it's really just like a very complex hearing.
right.
When you think about it.
Well, that's what a bench trial is.
Right.
Right.
It's a hearing, and that's what it is. It's just longer and more detailed than normal.
Right, and it's just now that we've finished opening statements, it's just like one deposition after the other, which we've been doing by Zoom for months now, where you're asking questions. And actually, really, it's awesome with the documents. I think the document viewing, sharing screens, being able to direct the witness to look at a specific document, because you can only scroll to that page and you say, look at page 3, this line. It's really easy to direct them, as opposed to in court, a lot of times we'll have to hand them a paper copy. They'll be flipping, they'll lose their place, the paper clip will come off. A lot of courts have it digitally now, which is just like this. But that's been really easy with Zoom, I've felt like, with the witnesses.
I think that it remains to be seen, but I think trials may be, these non-jury trials may be faster with Zoom.
Oh, for sure.
I think the time and the cost effectiveness of it probably is worth it.
Yeah, so it's been great. And we're on our lunch break now. We've got more witnesses all afternoon. So we'll check in with you guys in our next break and keep you updated on how it's going. All right, well, we expected this to be a 3-day journey behind the scenes with the lawyer you know for our first Zoom trial. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have settled the case over the lunch break. We got a call from opposing counsel while we were prepping for the upcoming witnesses, and we were able to get the entire case resolved after a couple years of litigation and only a half day of trial. That's what happens sometimes when people come to their senses when they hear the beginning of the case. And from our perspective, we're happy that it got done, even though we were looking forward to see the resolution come to pass at the end of the trial and to bring you behind the scenes with us for the next 3 days. But I think you got the gist from just our 1 day of trial, how crazy the world can be, especially trying cases by Zoom.